Hi everyone, good evening. How are you all? I welcome you to this session of the final mile. Today we will talk about odd sentence out para jumbles, right? So it has been a troubling topic for some of you, and it is a type in the answer question type, so no negative marking. So there's a lot of value in improving at this question type, right? Hello Mudit, good evening. Right. So, we will have a discussion on how to solve these, right? I am sure by now you know this. Just some things that you may be missing out on. Yes? Hello, Yash. So, how do you approach these questions? What is the first thing that you try to do when you look at an odd one out parajumble question? How do you eliminate? So just trying to get some insight into your process. Hello Chahat. Okay. So is it bucket approach? All right. So tell me, elaborate please. The opening sentence, all right. A lot of students do this. But what if there is no clear opening sentence? Then what do you do? Hello Pratyush. Connectors, all right. So basically, can I call them grammar or structure based clues, right? This, so that's a grammar based clue. What does this refer to? Okay, that's excellent. That's good to know, Mudit. All right. So what would I suggest to you? Okay, the usual things that you may be missing out on. Immediate discussion देखो क्या हो रही है, right? So what is the immediate discussion that is happening? A lot of times, so many of the questions are doable using this, that there will be this one sentence that will be more generalized, one sentence that will, all right, it will appear related, so it's not like it's completely unrelated. Of course that would become a very easy question, but immediate discussion में नहीं जा रहा वो. ठीक है. Sometimes grammar can also help you to detect this. For instance, if let's say all the sentences are in the, most of the sentences are in the present tense, there is this one sentence that is in the future tense, so be suspicious of it. I'm not saying reject it outrightly or say that this is the odd one out, but be suspicious. Okay. All right. So what sentences are closely related to one central idea and which one seems like an outlier? So precisely what I am talking about, the scope, right? These four sentences will have an immediate discussion going on. They will be conversing with each other. There is this one sentence जिसके साथ ये बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, उसको इन्होंने कर दिया exclude. तो ये जो excluded है, ये जो banished, right, outcast सा sentence है, ये हमें find out करना है. Okay, now because this will also try to converse with them, तो इमीडिएटली पता लगाना डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है, पर फिर भी ये इसको इतना भाव नहीं देंगे जो बचा हुआ है, एंड दैट इज योर आंसर. ओके, सो स्कोप मिसमैच, ग्रामर बेस्ड क्लूज, एंड दिस helps me tremendously when I'm stuck. Okay, students tell me we get stuck between two close options here as well, two sentences here as well. So tone can help you. It can be that one differential between these two sentences. Okay. And yes, solved by only making pairs. That's great, Shrey. So that's what I have also written in capital, that make mandatory pairs. Please don't be worried about the entire sequence. Okay, but making mandatory pairs, again, this is another thing that I see students not doing. Okay, apart from this. तो ये दो चीज़ें बहुत important हैं. Okay, yes. So let's see. जिसके बिना काम चल जाएगा. एब्सोल्युटली चाहत, यही अप्रोच होनी चाहिए कि एक सेंटेंस जो थोड़ा रिडंडेंट लग रहा है कि नहीं भी होगा तो काम चलेगा. ओके, ऑल राइट. नो पर्टिकुलर स्ट्रैटेजी, जस्ट इम्प्रोवाइजेशन एंड लॉजिक इन द मोमेंट. ओके, वैभव, दिस is just like statistics. Okay, so with some probability it will work, but we don't just want to rely on probabilities, right? Okay. Absolutely, Chahat. Good approach. So let's just integrate all your approaches. So you have read what all has happened in the chat box. You have also read what I showed you on the previous slide. ठीक है. अब इन एक दो चीज़ों पे काफ़ी फोकस करके, फॉर इंस्टेंस स्कोप, ठीक है, इस पर फोकस करके टेल मी विच इज़ द ऑड वन आउट हियर. I know the sentences are long, but this is deliberate. How will you tackle such a question in the exam? Okay, so 2 minutes. All right, let's go. All right, so it's been about 80 seconds. Okay. Right, so I've got 4 responses. What about others? 3, all right. So I've got 3 threes, 2 fours, 1 1. Okay. A lot of you now say 3. Okay, 4 as well. 3 of you say 4. But 3 is the answer and you are right. Okay. Now, this was an easy question, just lengthy but easy. Did you feel this while attempting? Batao. Okay, 1 or 3. Those who say 1. Okay, I want to understand this better because 3 के बाद जो पहला आंसर आया था वो 1 आया था. Isn't it kind of talking about that mental pollution referred to in 5? ये 5 से connected नहीं लग रहा. The discussion that is happening immediately in 5. मुझे तो बिल्कुल connected लग रहा है. Because see, use it in public in confined spaces and you'll be sure to get attention from other people. You will be keeping them distracted when they would like to concentrate and awake when they would like to rest. So what are you doing? This is mental pollution. Your conversations at a distance will take precedence over their face-to-face conversations. So ये ही mental pollution है, तो 1 तो related है. So 1 and 5 not the odd one out. Okay. Then 2 talks about these bees. Why are we discussing these bees? Because we are relating this to the physical harm that cell phone signals can cause. भाई पूरी colony मर गई उनकी, right? Their colony collapsed. So this is a physical harm, right? They died. So this is related again to 5. So 2 can also not be the odd one out, and good, nobody has actually said 2 as the odd one out. Fine. So the choice was, perhaps to me at least, the choice was between 3 and 4, right? Beyond this grim point of origin, your phone is likely to have a troubled afterlife, right? So fine. When the question gave a perception of difficulty only due to length, absolutely Shrey, absolutely, right? Thank you Ria, thank you. Now here I am just saying that once, let's say, your phone has been manufactured, once it has originated, it will have a troubled afterlife, right? So it causes mental pollution, and even if you're not worried about the mental pollution, it will cause trouble in your physical health, Okay, so this is the point that is being introduced by 4 here. Whereas 3 just goes on a different tangent. It just goes on this tangent of environmental degradation, which is not at all the point here. It is about the harmful effects of a phone for you, okay, or for let's say bees as well. So that's why it is 3. That is the odd one out. You were able to connect 4 and 5. Excellent, excellent. 4 talks about afterlife of the phone. That is different. Okay, okay, okay. But uh, your phone is likely to have a troubled afterlife. Okay. So, why will the phone have a troubled life after origin? Yes, because it is not doing any good, right? It's either causing mental pollution or it is harming people physically. So in that case it has a troubled afterlife for you. ऐसा नहीं है फोन परेशान हो रहा है, आप परेशान हो रहे हो फोन से, right? So a troubled afterlife for you. Okay, so that's the point. That is how it is related. I hope this is clear, Geetanjali. It completely misses out on the phone aspect. Absolutely, it just talks about environmental degradation. तो ये ऐसा था जो बाकी सबसे रिलेटेड ही नहीं है, राइट, स्कोप में. नाउ आई अंडरस्टैंड सम ऑफ यू मस्ट हैव फेल्ट मे बी बीज और एनवायरमेंटल डिग्रेडेशन का रिलेशनशिप है, राइट, मे बी, बट वॉट अबाउट द अदर सेंटेंसेज? यू हैव टू लुक एट द अदर सेंटेंसेज, राइट. स्कोप जब हम देखते हैं तो हम सारे सेंटेंसेज को देखते हैं ना, right? So you can't just rely on this one sentence too to say that 3 also belongs. So that's why. Okay, तो अभी हमने अप्लाई कर लिया स्कोप मिसमैच वाला आइडिया. आंसर बच्चे मैंने लिखा है 3. ओके, ऑल राइट. व्हाट डज in 4 refer to anything in the no, somewhere where this was picked from, Mudit. It has not been discussed. What is the grim point of origin? We don't know. Okay, all right then. Let's go to the next question. Yes, let's see. Again, scope, tone and all apply karo. Okay, so probably he didn't mark it in the repository. I'll tell him to do this. Let's go to the next question. We have ample questions, so don't worry. Chalo, ये वाला करते हैं. I am sincerely hoping he hasn't done it. All right, all right. I want more responses. So a lot of you feel that 5 is the odd sentence out. Okay. Do we all agree? Vaibhav, what do you say? Mudit? I haven't got your response. Acha, some of you are saying 1 as well. A couple of you. ठीक है, अब ये डिस्कस करते हैं. All right. So, now philosophers like Pascal are undoubtedly right that imagination cannot be an infallible rule of truth. Yes, it can certainly go off the rails on occasions. Yeah. So, ये बोलते हैं are undoubtedly right that imagination cannot be an infallible source of truth. It can certainly go off the rails on occasions. ठीक है, तो कभी कभी तो it can go off the rails on occasions. So it cannot be an infallible rule of truth, right? What we are imagining. Okay. Now look at 4 and 5 here. They are comparing imagination to perception, aren't they? So this says that, but more traditional epistemic sources, see, imagination is also a source of knowledge. That is what is being discussed here. Imagination as a source of knowledge. Okay. Now this is something that is prevalent in thought experiments. जैसे कि ethical dilemmas होते हैं, right? For example, if let's say there is a train, okay, that is going on a track. Now there is one person that is the train will actually its brakes have failed. Okay, now how can you save all the 100 people on board if you tie one person on the track? That is the only way. Okay, I'm just using a very loose version of this dilemma. So will you do this? So then you are confused whose life is more important, this one person's or these 100 people's, and who decides? So imagination can also be a source of knowledge, deciding between what is ethical, what is not. So this is what is being discussed. So philosophers like Pascal, they are undoubtedly right कि हाँ वो infallible source नहीं है. It's not the kind of source, it's not the kind of rule of truth that cannot be disputed. It's not undisputed. Fine. Okay. Now, but more traditional epistemic sources like perception, what I see, what I hear, right? They are also not infallible. Illusions हो सकते हैं ना इंसान को. Yes? There are plenty of times when we are insufficiently attentive, when we misperceive, and when we are subject to illusion. So the author is saying that fine, ये infallible नहीं है, but even more traditional sources like perception are not infallible either. Just as perception is not the enemy of reason, despite its fallibility, neither is imagination. So actually, yes, you're right. 5, 4 is a pair here. Okay. And it is related to 2. Notice these words: infallible, fallibility, infallible. Now, between 1 and 3, trolley problem, absolutely, Ritankar. Between 1 and 3, batao. Which one would you choose? I don't see anyone has chosen 3 here. But actually, 3 is the answer. 3 is the odd one out here. Why? Okay. Please notice the tone or the stance of the author here. Is the author pro-imagination or is the author anti-imagination? Tell me. Is the author pro, is the author anti, or is the author simply, I don't care, neutral? The author is pro imagination, because वो बोल रहा है ठीक है वो indisputable source नहीं है, but then it is not an enemy of reason. Okay, so imagination might not give us everything we want, it might not be infallible, but oftentimes it is exactly the right tool for what we need to do. That is what the author will conclude with, because look at the stance here that ये enemy नहीं है reason की, even ये भी तो गलत है ना. ठीक है, उन्होंने कह दिया, undoubtedly right है वो. So when you use this language, certainly, undoubtedly, it is possible that you are going to refute it later on. Okay, that's why I encircled these. Now why not 3? 3 क्यों belong नहीं कर रहा है? The fact that imagination can provide us with access to non-actualized possibilities is something of a double-edged sword. Tell me, ये वाली जो tone है इसका या ये जो stance है, is it pro imagination or is it cautious about imagination? It is cautious, right? When I call something a double edged sword, तो मेरा of course उस पर बहुत positive opinion नहीं है. मैं कह रही हूँ ध्यान से, it's a double edged sword, right? So the opinion here becomes cautious, whereas in the rest of the sentences it's like ठीक है but अच्छी है, ठीक है गलतियाँ हैं but अच्छी है. So this therefore is a tone mismatch as well as of course a stance mismatch. Author का stance नहीं है ये. Author is pro imagination in the rest of the sentences. So see, this is how tone matters. Okay. All right. Now, I hope this is clear. Let's come to this question here. The third question. Let's see. I've got 3 responses. What about others? Interesting. Okay, so 2, 3, 1. What else? 4 or 5 बचे हैं अब. 5, okay. Okay, all right. So, if I ask you what is the immediate topic of discussion in this paragraph, what would you say? What are we trying to grasp here in this paragraph? Exactly, है क्या time? Yes, that is I think the discussion here. Right, what exactly is time? मैं तो attempt नहीं कर रहा. Shivansh is like, it's a very petulant language. मैं नहीं कर रहा, जाओ. Okay, so what then is time? I think 1 is not the odd one out. Some of you said 1 is the odd one out. ठीक है. So okay, let's see why it is not the odd one out. तो अब ये वाली रीड करते हैं. But what in speaking do we refer to more familiarly and knowingly than time? So is this a question that is a genuine question or is it a rhetorical question? मुझे बताओ. Rhetorical question क्या होता है पहले तो ये बताओ. When we are just trying to make a point, it's not a genuine question that we expect our listener to answer. That is a rhetorical question. तो ये यहाँ पर ऐसा question है, वो बोल रहा है कि time is something that we speak so familiarly and knowingly about, isn't it? Time क्या हुआ है, अरे time कम बचा है, you know what, it's almost time, okay, I'm taking more time, all those things. So when we talk about it, we refer to it so familiarly, so knowingly. Yes? And certainly we understand when we speak of it. We understand also when we hear it spoken of by another, है ना. So हम जब बोलते हैं तब हमें उसका concept पता है, we understand it. And also when we hear it spoken of by another, तब भी मुझे पता है. But so तो अब ठीक है, बोलने में पता है, सुनने में मैं मीनिंग समझ जाती हूँ. What then is time? Like what exactly is it? Define. So it says, if no one asks me, I know, right? If no one is asking me and I am speaking of it, I'm simply hearing it, I know kya hai time, I know. But if I wish to explain to him who asks, पर अगर किसी ने पूछ लिया कि exactly क्या है time, I know not. So it is 2 that is the odd one out. And see here, if you looked at it from a distance, हम खो गए I think इसके अंदर because of the questions. But if you looked at it from a distance, look at the kind of sentence this is. Too factual, not analytical at all. Isn't it? The most commonly used noun in the English language is, according to the Oxford English Corpus, time. I understand that it is establishing that it is a commonly used word, but my point of discussion here is not simply whether it is commonly used or not. My point of discussion is, ऐसे सुनने में बोलने में तो लगता है कि हम समझते हैं time को, but do we really understand what time is? If asked to define, can we define it? So that is the point here, and that is why 2 is the odd one out. Good, Vaibhav. Okay. Yes, Shivansh, you defined rhetorical question correctly. Okay. I hope this is clear to everybody. I'm just looking at who marked 2. Kisne? Pragati also said 2. Good, Pragati. Vaibhav said 2, and I think Chahat also said 2. If I'm looking at the correct question. Okay. So I hope this is clear. Now this was a little tricky. ये था tricky वाला question, because here when you look at it, the sentences are short, the language is not very difficult, okay, but you have to really think. So that's what makes it tricky. ठीक है? चलो, let's have a look at this one. Okay, I've got my first answer. What about others? All right. Now, what was the level of this question? This was easy. It looked abstract, but question easy tha. ठीक है? So that is why, when it comes to odd one out, see, they are type in the answer questions. If, that is also the case in CAT 2025. In that case, it's worth investing some of your time in them, because काफ़ी बार ऐसा भी हो सकता है. आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट इट कांट बी अदरवाइज कि वो एक्चुअली में डिफ़िकल्ट निकला तो ठीक है, फिर 1 मिनट स्पेंड करके मुझे समझ में आ जाएगा कि ये जेन्युइनली डिफ़िकल्ट है, मैं नहीं कर पा रही हूँ, राइट, देन आई वुड लीव इट. But in case in 1 minute I realize, oh, there is a connection here. This is talking about the bodily dimension. This also says the bodily dimension. These sentences are talking about deflection in general. Suddenly this talks about philosophical deflection, sharing these features. ओके, सो नाउ दिस इज इंट्रोड्यूसिंग अ सॉर्ट ऑफ अ न्यू डायमेंशन टू द डिस्कशन, है ना, एकदम से हम फिलोसॉफिकल पे आ गए कि इट मे शेयर दीज फीचर्स. सो दिस विल परहैप्स कम इन द नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ, नॉट इन दिस पैराग्राफ, राइट? I hope this makes sense. So now here, see, I did not make any sequence. So Preeti Khanna was asking, is it possible to attempt these questions? Yes, for some of the questions it's very much possible. But in case it's a tricky question, it's a difficult question, sometimes we may be forced to form a sequence, but it's rare. राइट, यूजुअली हमें ट्राई करना है कि हम पेयर्स बना बना के अपना काम चला लें, राइट, सो दैट वी सेव टाइम. Okay, so now what does 2 relate to? Philosophical and motivation. Okay, and chose motivation. All right, so let's see how is 3 related. We might be consciously aware of some of these motivational forces, or we might not. The bodily dimension might be what gives us an inkling that something is going on, right? So which dimensions, I mean, which motivational forces am I talking about? When I say deflection can stem from a desire to establish, so ये हो गई ना motivation. मेरी motivation है to establish or maintain relations of power and privilege, or to enable us to continue engaging in habitual practices, right, that we are reluctant to change. Okay, it also seems plausible that there is a bodily dimension to this deflection. तो जो ये motivational forces हैं, we might not be aware of them, but the bodily dimension might be what gives us an inkling that something is going on, right? So अब तो मैंने sequence ही बना दी है. No, 2, 4, 3, 5 is not the sequence. देखो, there are several plausible reasons why deflection occurs in day-to-day life. Okay, deflection can stem from this. Okay, it also seems plausible that there is a bodily dimension. Now we might not be aware of some of these motivational, we might be consciously aware of some of these motivational forces, और we might not. जो bodily dimension अभी हमने डिस्कस करी वो एक इंक्लिंग दे देगी. सो ये सीक्वेंस है, इन केस यू आर लुकिंग फॉर द सीक्वेंस, राइट? आई होप दिस मेक्स सेंस. Okay, and Shivansh, I hope this makes sense to you that it will be 5, 3 and not 3, 5. Because look at this, it also seems plausible that there is a bodily dimension. So पहले ये वाले plausible reason किए, then it also seems plausible that there is. ठीक है, perfect. He's more myself than I am. Okay. All right, Jatin. So poetic, so literary. But I'm happy that you've read Wuthering Heights. Beautiful novel it is. तो अब चलते हैं एक और क्वेश्चन पे. आई होप ये क्लियर हो गया सबको. इसका आंसर अगर किसी को डाउट है 1 था, ठीक है? अब आ जाओ इस क्वेश्चन पे. यस, लेट्स सी व्हाट यू से. Okay, I've got many responses already. All right, तो अभी हम assess करते हैं if it is the correct response or not. ठीक है, so a lot of you are saying 2. Okay. Okay, all right. But what makes you think that 3 is a part of the discussion? अच्छा बताओ. So a lot of you are, मुझे शक होता रहता है. अच्छा, there is a lag. Okay, I'm back now. Perfect. ठीक है. So time related cacophony is basically noise. So it's a temporal cacophony, a disorienting polyrhythm, multiple rhythms that disorient you. So what is it referring to? 1. Pairs बनाते हैं चलो इसमें. It is referring to 5. There are so many clocks and so little time. Economic clocks, physical and... So why is there so little time? Economic clocks, physical and chemical clocks, nature's innumerable biological clocks, our inner psychological clocks, and collective cultural clocks. It's a temporal cacophony, a disorienting polyrhythm. तो चलो पहले ये eliminate करते हैं. All right. Now, it says to figure out how to move forward, we should pause and express the different tempos that we dwell within. So all these different tempos, all these different temporal periods, right? तो ये भी related लग रहा है. So it comes down to 2 and 3. Now, o'clock is a contraction of the clock, a vestigial reminder that there was a time when clocks were novelties and clock time obviously foreign, an interloper not yet internalized as the societal default. After this, in the rest of the paragraph, am I talking about how today we have internalized it, how today it has become a societal default? ये बात हुई है कहीं पे भी किसी sentence में? Not really, right? So we are just talking about the multiplicity, not the fact that today it has become the norm, the default. ये discussion हो ही नहीं रही. And absolutely Mudit, it's too literal just about the clock. So now I understand 2 में आपको लगा कि climate crisis is the different part. But look at this, different time scales operating simultaneously. Isn't it very directly related to 5? क्योंकि इतने सारे टाइम स्केल्स हैं ना, इतने सारे इकोनॉमिकली देयर इज़ एन इकोनॉमिक क्लॉक, बूम बस्ट, ये वाली जो साइकिल्स होती हैं, राइट? वी हैव आर बॉडी क्लॉक इज आर फिजिकल क्लॉक, राइट? देन द फिजिकल क्लॉक दैट यू हैव एट योर होम, केमिकल क्लॉक्स, राइट? केमिकल्स के भी राइज अगेन हार्मोनल क्लॉक्स जैसे होती हैं, राइट? देन नेचर की खुद की क्लॉक्स हैं, सीजन्स हैं हमारे. तो ये क्या है? दीज आर डिफरेंट टाइम स्केल्स ऑपरेटिंग साइमल्टेनियसली. So 2 is actually the topic sentence here, okay? Right? 3, yes, this is a 3 is maybe somewhere in this essay we must have talked about 3. So this is an example of that question where the third sentence is not completely unrelated, but it does not belong to the immediate range या scope जो भी आप इसको बोलना चाहो, right? So it does not match this. Okay, and our clue here, there was a very good thematic clue that connected 2 with 5 कि ये पूरा जो हमारे पास little time क्यों है? Because if we want to save our earth, then we have little time, and to figure out how to move forward to address this climate crisis, हमें थोड़ा सा pause करने की ज़रूरत है and also clearly express the different tempos we dwell within. Okay, so it is a sort of a problem solution paragraph. Okay. ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, 3 प्रॉब्लम नहीं है इस बाकी के पैराग्राफ की, 2 इज द प्रॉब्लम दैट वी आर डीलिंग विद. ठीक है, चलो अब आ गया समझ. गुड. सो अगेन दिस वाज अ व्हाट काइंड ऑफ अ क्वेश्चन? ट्रिकी क्वेश्चन. तो अभी एक बार लेट्स सी आउट ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस दैट वी अटेम्प्टेड, दिस वी फाउंड ईजी, है ना? ओके, देन एज फार एज दिस वाज कंसर्न्ड, आई थिंक मॉडरेट बोल देते हैं इसको. सम ऑफ यू आई थिंक बिकॉज यू वर लॉस्ट इन परसेप्शन वाली चीज़ एंड यू फेल्ट कि परसेप्शन वाला ही ऑड वन आउट होना चाहिए. देन दिस वॉज ट्रिकी. ओके, हियर दिस वन वॉज अगेन ईजी फॉर यू, right? So there is a mix of easy, tricky, moderate, difficult questions here as well. And if let's say हम easy, moderate भी target करें ना, that means I'm targeting almost half of these questions. This is what you have to do. I understand it's easier said than done, but learn to fail fast. अगर in a span of a minute उसमें थोड़ा सा ही पढ़ के लग रहा है कि ये बिल्कुल समझ ही नहीं आ रहा, या I am just not able to find out any pair, right? Then leave that, proceed. Otherwise, and leave that क्या, कुछ तो मार्क कर ही दो. ओके, 1 2 3 4 5 में से कुछ टाइप करके आना, in case it's a no negative question. Okay, where the obvious one is not the answer. Should we always pause and reconfirm our answer with a different perspective? Simran, it depends on the time in which you have first figured out your answer. If let's say within the first 30 seconds you feel अरे यही आंसर है, right? In that case just confirm it once more. Okay, but if let's say after 1.5 minutes you've arrived at your first answer, then in that case don't spend another 1 minute on it. Okay, all right, let's have a look at this one then. चलो देखते हैं. Okay, already got 4 responses, 5 now, and it's a unanimous 2. Okay, perfect. 2 is generalized. Yes, it is contextualizing, basically talking about the historical dimension of it, yes, throughout history. Whereas our current situation, again, the paragraph itself is a cycle, right? That अभी short run में ठीक है, globalization has witnessed a retreat, ठीक है, अभी decrease हो गई है, but we believe it will come back with a vengeance. Okay, it will come back stronger, as if it is trying to avenge something. So 3 is the introductory sentence. Okay, it's a prediction that has been made. Now we are elaborating on this, that how will this work? See, nations that build walls to keep out goods, people and talent will get out competed. This will be the mechanism, है ना, जिससे ये चीज़ सच होगी कि ग्लोबलाइजेशन वापस आएगी. Then what will then happen? This realization that, see, if we keep out goods, people and talent, we'll lose out. It will reverse their anti-globalization, and the ones that do not will cease to be important global pairs. So choice क्या रहेगी? या तो change करो या मरो, right? That choice will be there. Either way, चाहे ये हो या फिर ये हो, globalization will be back on track. Okay, globalization will be back on track with a much greater amount of outsourcing. I am sorry. Please ignore this, the senses, okay? So, ये related नहीं था. All right, I hope this is clear. This is talking about globalization in a more generalized, a more longer term historical context. Okay. ठीक है. Perfect. 3-4 is a pair. नहीं, 1-4 is a pair. अमित. चलो, ये easy था. अब ये वाला देखते हैं. This question. Let's see what you say. Okay. So it's 2 versus 4 with a lot of you saying 4. All right. चलो देखते हैं फिर. These two. 2 versus 4. Any other option? Okay. ठीक है. Never mind the far off specter of doomsday. Far off bhoot of doomsday. AI is already here working behind the scenes of many of our social systems. Yes. Let's see. देखते हैं. So, what is the point of this paragraph? Tell me. AI is already here. AI algorithmic decision making is currently being deployed, right? So then the author asks us, what responsibilities and obligations do we bear for AI's social consequences in the present? आ गई है, it's already here, it's currently there, not just in the distant future. Some some argue that it may be only decades away, but this focus obscures the reality that weak AI is already reshaping. अभी कर रही है वो हमारी societal political institutions को. Today it is reshaping them. So the point here is that this is not about whether they can contribute to social justice or not. The point, there is an urgency to this paragraph. The author is saying AI is here, AI is affecting us, AI is being utilized here. So now let's reflect हमारी क्या responsibilities and obligations हैं for all these consequences happening right now. Okay. So 3 says some are optimistic that weak AI systems can contribute positively to social justice. The argument is not about whether they can contribute to justice, whether they can't, right? Whether they are fair or unfair. ये discussion नहीं है ये. Discussion ये है कि it is here. So now let's learn how to deal with it. What responsibilities we have, what obligations we have. Good, Vaibhav, good. Absolutely, Simran, absolutely. This was the crux of this paragraph. ठीक है, so good. Those who said 3, I was surprised, so many 4s in the beginning, right? I felt, okay, what has happened here? Why is it just is it because it was a question that you felt कि ये unrelated है? All right. I hope अब clear है सबको कि 3 क्यों odd one out है here. So how would you categorize this question? Easy, moderate, difficult में? बताओ. See, maybe we were a little fatigued, we were a little tired, and maybe this also happens that we always overthink when we get an answer easily. हमें लगता है कि अरे ऐसे कैसे इतनी जल्दी आ गया. So this was not a difficult question, not at all. It was easy to moderate. ठीक है, easy to moderate question था ये. So these are the kinds of questions that I should focus on even in the exam. easy to moderate, ये वाले मुझे टारगेट करने हैं. ठीक है, और बाकी भी जो नहीं भी किया उसमें मुझे कुछ ना कुछ टाइप इन करके आ जाना है इफ़ इट इज़ अ नॉन नेगेटिव, राइट? So these were some questions for today, and I hope this has given you an insight as to how we applied this today. This scope mismatch and tone mismatch specifically. I tried not to bring a lot of such questions because grammar based काफ़ी बार identify करना easy होता है, right? It is here that a lot of students face problems. So I hope now you have more insight into this. That was the agenda for today. ठीक है, 3 में सोशल जस्टिस का एस्पेक्ट इज टू नैरो एंड अनरिलेटेड. एब्सोल्युटली मुदित, वो पॉइंट ही नहीं था उस पैराग्राफ का, सोशल जस्टिस के बारे में बात करना. ठीक है, ऑल राइट देन, दिस इज इट फ्रॉम माई साइड फॉर टुडे. आई होप यू हैड अ गुड टाइम. ऑल राइट, आई विल सी यू अगेन. बाय बाय.